Hello, everybody. My name is Shimri Winters. This is the slide about me. I have an undergraduate in computer science. I was a programmer, and then I did my London Business School MBA. I did it to change my career. Luckily, it worked. And I went to be, post my MBA, a consultant in London. I worked for about a year and a half in consulting, then moved to some of the clients to work in business development roles in various big IT companies. I've been working at ARINGO full time for the last 10 years. Um, Another interesting fact about me, when I left London Business School, I was part of the interviewing committee and I interviewed candidates for about 8 years. Okay, that was kind of about me. Again, I'm waiting to see who's on the YouTube with us. It's a YouTube live session, and it's important because we're going to do an interactive session today. I'm going to ask you kind of lots of questions, so I hope you manage to answer them. This is my only marketing slide. What does ARINGO MBA Admissions Consulting do? Well, we're very good, and we help with the entire MBA admissions process from school selection till scholarship negotiation and choosing between which offers you're going to get, and of course everything in the middle, from helping with CV, essays, interview prep, etc. So we're very good. Check out our stats, aringo.com. That's it. That was my marketing pitch. I'm a very good marketing person. Okay, I'm still waiting to see who's on this YouTube. So thanks, Mark. Um, Congratulations for 700 on a GMAT. That's good. Okay, targeting good schools. I need to see your profile, but targeting good schools. Okay, so a bit about the agenda for today. And again, the topic was how to choose between MBA programs. It's a bit vague how to choose which programs to apply to, or how to choose which programs once I get admitted, maybe to choose between the programs. It's a bit vague, I admit, but I'm going to try and make it a bit more vague. And I'm going to try and show you that there aren't that many differences between lots of schools. There are differences between maybe a top 10 school and a top 100 school, but there aren't that many differences between lots of similar schools, and kind of to forget some of the myths you might be thinking about certain schools. But I will try and give you some factors about how to choose a school, and I actually keyed in at the end of this presentation like my factors and try to get a conclusion for me which school I should apply to if I was applying again. It came out London Business School. Very strange. Great school. Okay, so this is the agenda. Basically, I'm going to kind of give you a very quick run through, and you can see I'm trying to talk quickly, a quick run through some basic things, and then we're just going to go through the actual schools we're targeting. So hi Ayush, and thanks for letting us know you'll be interviewing for NCR. That's a great school. Check out our other videos about how to interview and about NCR specifically. Okay, so I just put together like 2 or 3 basic slides. I think most of you know these slides and probably know this information. So why do an MBA and why go for a top MBA program? Most of the people I talk to are career switchers. Most of the people, the candidates, they're programmers and they want to be product managers, or they're lawyers and they want to move into kind of business decision roles and not just accompany firms with legal advice. They want to maybe give advice or even lead some kind of business decisions. There's also accelerators, which are not career switchers, but they just want to be higher up within the industry or the company that they're in today. And of course, future entrepreneurs. All these are great reasons to go and do a top MBA. I love this reason, me time. It's very hard to put on it some money, or very hard to decide how important this is out of the factors of going to do an MBA. But it's 1 or 2 years of full-time, amazing experience. So I'll just continue. This is my last slide of general information. So let's say I've persuaded you. You want to go and do a top MBA program. What do you need to apply? So first of all, there is a prerequisite, usually, of having an undergraduate degree. I've actually had quite a few, so probably 2 or 3 every year exceptions. I have a great Cambridge applicant this year who got into Cambridge without an undergraduate degree. I have an INSEAD applicant who got into INSEAD without an undergraduate degree. So this is possible, but again, that's obviously not the norm. So talk to me later if you want to discuss that option. But usually MBA programs will look for an undergraduate degree, and there's a minimum of 2 or sometimes 3 years of full-time post-undergraduate degree work experience. If there's a specific case why you worked before your undergraduate degree, for example, you went to the army when you were 18, but then you went to your undergraduate degree at 25, that's fine as well, because that's full-time work experience. But they look for 2 or 3 years of work experience, which isn't in parallel to your undergraduate degree. And then if you have those minimums, you can definitely take the GMAT or GRE. And if English is not your mother tongue, or you didn't study in an English-speaking undergraduate degree, again, depends which university, they have different rules, you might need the TOEFL or the IELTS. Once you have those prerequisites, you can apply to any MBA program in the world, as long as you pay the registration fee. I mean, they all have a fee. And then you actually apply, which includes the online application, basic details, sometimes some questions, some essays, your resume, and some recommendations. So that's the application process. By the way, working with us on this process can take something like 3 months. So if you're planning to apply in round 1 this year and it's 3 months to round 1, talk to us yesterday. This is the time to apply. By the way, my contact details are in the end. You can shoot me a line anytime with your profile, and we can take it from there. Okay, that's it. Now, I did promise this is going to be an interactive session. There are so many acronyms in the MBA world. I learn new acronyms every day. So you might be hearing a lot of kind of these acronyms, M7. These are kind of basic ones, so I'm not going to ask you, but wait for the next page for me to ask you about some acronym. So M7 is kind of a definition for the top 7 schools in the US. I've mentioned them here. They're not necessarily ranked the top 7 schools in every ranking, and we'll talk about that in about 2 slides, but they're usually the top 7, the more sought after schools that my candidates will ask me that they want to go to. There's usually the first 2 or 3 are more sought after, so they're higher in demand than the other ones, but still these 7 are probably the most 7 exclusive and, like I said, sought after, or with the most applicant schools in the MBA world. And then there's all different, T10, T20, T15, so that just means top. Okay, now according to what ranking? Who knows? I've counted something like 20 schools in the top 10. So we'll talk about that. But, if someone just says T10 or something like that, just know what they're talking about. I've seen this quite a lot on GMAT Club, HSW. So that's just people referring to Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. Okay. Ivy League. A lot of people call me and say, listen, I just want to go to an Ivy League school. Ivy League is actually great. It's, it's a great athletic conference of 8 private universities. Minor detail that just means nothing in the MBA world. A few of the schools like Brown and Princeton don't even have an MBA. Some of the Ivy League MBAs are not considered top 5 or top 10. So it's actually less of an acronym that is important. Okay, I hope you'll remember we have an interactive session. I hope you remember. Guys, this is just for fun. I'm going to drink my coffee. You let me know what EA or ED means. This is gonna be my 5, 4. I'm drinking my coffee. Good, I love it when there's interactive sessions. Mark, if you just got the GMAT, you should be knowing what all the rounds are about. So that was quite an easy one. And this just refers to rounds. So most schools have a round 1, round 2, round 3. Some have round 4 or 5, depends which school. But there's some schools like Columbia or Darden or Duke that have some kind of early action or early decision, which just means you can apply very early, and usually your application will be reviewed before the rest. Ayush, good? Good. Okay, let's continue. Okay, this is an easy one, so I'll pass it. LOR, a lot of schools will refer to your LORs, okay? It's just your letters of recommendation. again, refer to some of my other videos, but basically your recommendations need to be given by professional recommenders. So your boss versus your university professor. Okay, I've also seen this a lot on GMAT Club, work experience. Okay, that's quite an easy one. We get into some industry ones, you know, MBB. Great. By the way, there's some more. You can keep asking questions on the forum. On the chat. I will actually see the questions and address all of them at the end of the session. So there's some questions that I might address during the session if it's relevant. I'll definitely address the over 30 question at the end. So keep asking questions. NCR tips, you know, that's maybe a different video. So MBB, you know, a lot of people, correct, Muhammad, nice. A lot of people want to go to consulting post MBA, and this is considered the 3 most exclusive consulting firms. By the way, I also put IB, investment banking, PM, product manager. Okay, if you know what you want to go to, which industry, which companies, know the acronyms. Okay, LDP is a leadership development program, less important, but again, just some acronyms. Big 4, usually people do know, which is the Big 4 consulting firms. EQ, again, is the difficult one. It actually means emotional intelligence. Sometimes your recommenders are asked to give their review about your emotional intelligence. And my last favorite acronyms, who knows what are these? How will I even pronounce them? GAMAM or GAMAM or MAMA. I love these acronyms. Or GAMMA. So I've actually only discovered these 3 lately. The FAANG I've seen and used in the last 2 years, so that's a bit more common. Does anyone have any idea what these acronyms are? And I see there's great. I see there's actually 2 questions about more than 10 years of experience, over 30. Please Google my, or YouTube Google my video, MBA over 30. I actually have a whole video about that. Let's continue here a bit. So if you know these acronyms, they're really complicated. Exactly. So well done. I'm not sure what your first name is, but well done. Cartication. Sorry if that's not your full name. But you're right. Okay. And Hirak, you're right as well. Great. So, you know, these just mean like the top technology companies. Okay. And there's so many acronyms because is Facebook or is it Meta, right? So is it an F or is it an M? And usually it's Apple and Amazon. Those are the A's here. Microsoft is another M. In FANG, I think N is Netflix. Okay. And then it's Google or Alphabet, right? So there's another A. So that's what these acronyms mean, the big techs. Okay, let's continue because again, like now we're starting to discuss, okay, so the topic of this session is how do I choose a business school? Which business school do I want to go to? And if I was, you know, if I ask people, you know, what's the number 1 criteria of your business school? A lot of people say, okay, what's the ranking? What's the brand, etc. So what is rankings when, you know, there's so many rankings? So, you know, this is again to the chat here. Is Columbia Business School one of the highest ranked MBA programs? Like, is Columbia considered one of the best schools or no? What do you think? Is it a top 5 school? Tough question. I'm not even sure what the answer is. The answer is yes, no, or maybe. Yes, that's the answer, but I'm not sure which I would choose. So that's a tough question. And this is why I'm trying to show you a bit that if we look at the Economist MBA rankings, Columbia is ranked 4. And if we look at the Financial Times, it's ranked 1. But on the US News and on Business Week, it was actually moved to beyond the top 7 or 8 schools. Yes, you can see it's ranked 8 or 11. There's another question, does it really matter? But that's another question. Same question for Cornell. Okay, Ivy League school, right? New York, Ivy League. Sounds great. Is it a top 10 school? Well, according to the Financial Times and Forbes, yes. According to some of the other schools, it's maybe a top 15 or top 20 school. Does it really matter? That's another question that I'll try and answer in the next 2 slides. But I just wanted you to take into account, a lot of people tell me, you know, I looked at the Financial Times, I can't see Wharton. Wharton isn't a good school. When then I tell them, okay, look at all the other rankings and you will see Wharton when you accumulate all the rankings, is probably the #1 school in the world, because it's ranked very high in every single ranking, except the Financial Times, who this year decided not to rank Wharton from various reasons, which are less relevant. We do have on our website kind of a combined ranking system where we take all 5 different rankings and we give them an average and a weight. Check us out on ARINGO.com if you're interested in rankings. Okay, so who are the top schools? Okay, like what are, I just want the top 10 schools. What are the top schools? So we said there's so many rankings. It's hard to know, what are the top schools. There's definitely some definitions, M7 schools, it's 7 schools. There's no doubt about that. Ivy League school, again, there's 6 schools that have MBAs. I took off Brown and Princeton that just don't have full-time MBA programs. If I look at the top 10 UK and European schools, well, I usually get to this top 10 list. Usually, maybe there's 1 or 2 schools that change, and another UK school comes in instead of a Spanish school. But usually it's kind of the same top 10 ranking. But in the US, there's so many rankings. Okay. Now, the question is, does it even matter? And here's another question to the nice chat that we have going on here. Okay, it's all about the money, right? So which school, this is, I think, the statistics from 2 years ago, which school alumni got paid the most? Okay, so students finished the university, they checked their first job post-university, post-MBA, 3 months after the degree, and they checked who got the most money. What do you think? I'll start giving you options while you throw me the answer. Was it Columbia, which wasn't ranked, what was it ranked? 11th. Wow, by US News. Was it Harvard? Harvard's a great place, right? I think everybody would like to go to Harvard or Stanford, maybe. Maybe it was INSEAD or London Business School, 2 amazing schools, but they're not in the US. Where do you think the alumni were paid the most? Okay, Wharton, that's a great great idea. Again, ranked one of the best schools in the world. That's a good answer. Let me wait for another answer. Thanks, Kartik. Funny, usually I only get Harvard. Like that's like the only Okay, so Stanford, good. I maybe would expect Stanford, with lots of tech things, etc. Now, I actually don't know the answer because every different MBA ranking that checks salaries gives me a different answer. But on this specific MBA rankings, I think it was the Financial Times, but I'm not sure. Actually, MIT had the highest salaries. And if you see what they're saying, MIT salaries were 161,000. This is before bonuses and options. $161,000. And at Harvard, at the same year, it was 160. Wow, what a difference. Okay, so if you're looking at salary, I think we can agree that it doesn't matter if you go to MIT or Harvard, the salaries are kind of similar. Okay, let's just check out another myth. So in the US, MBAs are 2 years and you do an internship after the first year. Which interns will pay the most? I'll just give you a hint. It wasn't MIT, okay? So it's not the same answer. So again, interns get paid in the summer. Which interns or from which school the interns will pay the most? Again, there are many rankings, and you will actually find different information on different rankings. Does it even matter? That's another question. So I'll actually try and give you the answer because I think you'll be surprised. It was actually NYU. Okay. Now, when you think about it, it makes sense because probably most of NYU interns went to work in New York, where salaries are a tiny bit higher than salaries somewhere else. Okay, it doesn't mean they went to do internships in different places from Kellogg MBAs. It just means they all did it in New York and maybe got $1,000 more. I'll give you a little tip. Their cost of living was $1,000 more as well. So it's not such a big deal. There's a lot of good schools. That's what I'm trying to say. And here's a recruitment slide from London Business School. These are the companies that came to recruit 3 or 4 years ago from London Business School. As you will see, there's all the top American or global companies. Of course, there's McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. Of course, there's Amazon and Google. Of course, there's big conglomerates like Burger King, okay, or eBay, like big companies that just come and recruit as investment bankers. There's everything. And the same companies come to recruit from all different top MBAs. And sometimes it doesn't really matter if you go to an MBA that's ranked number 3 or number 7. Okay, so those were just my 2 cents. And I'm just going to show you like one example. So a lot of MBAs tell me they want consulting, and they say, and I have to go to a top MBA that only does consulting, like NCR, they're very famous in consulting. I can't go anywhere else. And then I literally took a random school. I took Carnegie Mellon MBA program. They were not ranked on the Economist this year. They are ranked on the other rankings. I think we can fairly say they're a top 25 MBA program. Okay, they're not top 10, they're not top 5. They're a very good program. If you look at the salary, okay, again, this is a different statistic, so you get a different number. Is $165,000. That's a lot of money. It's a very good salary. They had 96% placement. That means people that went to this MBA and wanted to find a job found a job. And most people stayed in the US, even if you're international, most of the jobs were in the US. And if you look at this at the split of these jobs, most of the people worked in consulting and at a consulting firm. Okay, so you can see 37% went to consulting, and I literally took the school randomly. This wasn't the school that I chose for consulting. And if you look at the top 5 school, I think you will see very, very similar industries. You will see consulting usually first, technology starting to grow and grow and grow in the last 5 years. Amazon, Google, Facebook, they recruit a lot of MBAs, Microsoft, and so the technology sector is growing, finance is going a bit lower, and then there's kind of everything else. And I think you'll see very similar percentages from a lot of top schools. Even if you look at IES Barcelona, very different than Carnegie Mellon, I think you will see very similar kind of numbers. So question is, does it really matter to go to a specific school? I'm trying to convince you that not. Okay, so how do I choose a program? So this is again for the chat. I'm going to drink my coffee and you're going to answer. What is the top factor for you? Okay, if you want to be advanced, give me 2 factors. But when you come to choose between 2 MBA programs, what is the top factor? Okay, is it the price of the MBA program? Is it the prestige? Is it I don't know, you tell me. Is it the cafeteria's lunch? Is the school start with an H? Is that very important? Does it have to be Harvard? Okay, so I actually really, really like your answer about geographical location. So Kartik, thanks. Because geographical location is a very, very important factor in my eyes. Okay, placement is another one, very good one. Vibe, I never ever got that answer. That's such a nice answer, Vibe. Okay, so a lot of times when I speak to kind of professionals from my industry, sometimes fellow consultants, usually from other firms, I get kind of, oh, the school brand is very important. I don't disagree. I think it's very important. And then they give me some kind of sentence of, where do you think your aspirations will be served? Okay. But I just showed you a slide from London Business School with the exact same recruiters that would come to Duke, that would come to UCLA, and that would come to NCR. So I'm not exactly sure how do I even address that career aspirations. Okay. Again, if you have very, very specific career aspirations, I agree. That comes to location because maybe you really want to be in California. But again, if you just have general career aspirations, I want to be a product manager or I want to be a consultant, a lot of tech firms and a lot of consulting firms recruit from all MBA programs. So this is the way I like to look at it. And this is kind of our ARINGO 5 factors for considerations. There's many more and I'll show you more, but these are, I think, the strong factors. I think absolutely the first factor is location. Okay. Where do you, it's so nice to go to Harvard, but if you don't want to be in the US, why would you go to Harvard? Okay. So think about the location during your MBA. And as you saw in Carnegie Mellon, most candidates will probably stay in the same country or in the same continent if it's Europe, post MBA. So if you don't want to live in the US, why would you go to an American school? It just doesn't make any sense. Don't go to an American school if you want to study, if you want to live in Europe. And vice versa. NCAD was ranked #1 in the world at 4 out of the last 5 or 6 years in the Financial Times MBA ranking. But why would you go to NCAD if your dream is to live and work afterwards in the US? I'm not saying these crosses are not possible. Of course, 15 or 20% of NCAD alumni, I haven't checked, but something like that, go and work in the US. But how many of them were American? How many of them worked for American companies to begin with? there's a lot of statistics which are hard kind of to get out of, and so many other factors. So definitely go according to location. The second factor is definitely school ranking. I agree 100%. School ranking is very, very important. You don't want to go to a lower ranked school if you can go to a higher up school. On the other hand, I think I tried to show you before that there isn't a clear definition of what is a top 3 or 5 or 10 school or even top 20. And I hope I tried to show you a bit in the salaries, and I have lots of data about this. Contact me and I'll send it to you. That salaries are actually quite similar between, top 15, or sorry, 15 schools which are in the top 10. So ranking is important, but again, if a school is ranked 3 and a school is ranked 8, not such a big deal. Another important factor, I think, is the length of program. Most of the schools in Europe are 1 year. Most of the schools in the US are 2 years. If you don't know what you want to be when you grow up, and you're going for an MBA to kind of rethink your whole future, and you want to take your time and you want an internship, NCAD's 10-month program might not be for you. But if you know what you want to be when you grow up, and you know you want to be an investment banker, and you know you have a bit of experience in that, and you don't care about the internship, then maybe you don't need to go to a 2-year program in the US. Okay, so again, if this is, I was taking location out of the factor, which I don't want to, but length of program is important. Obviously, cost is something important. So let's say I get into 2 programs, one with a scholarship, one without. Yeah, I should factor that as well. And I'm really happy with the gut feeling, okay? Because I speak to hundreds of people a year. And when someone tells me they want to go to Oxford and they've dreamt about Oxford, why should I argue with that? Oxford's a great school. Go to Oxford. And even if you can't kind of explain, you've always wanted to live in London, go to London Business School. That's fine. Definitely factor that in. I put here happy wife, happy life. I think that's an important phrase to whoever has a partner. If you have a partner and he or she won't be happy throughout your MBA, you will be miserable as well. If you'll be miserable, you won't maximize this experience. So your partner needs to be happy. Does your partner need a working visa? That might be an issue in some of these countries. For example, the US, partners don't always get working visas for international candidates. Does your partner need to be in a big city? Maybe your partner doesn't care. Okay, so I think that's important. I just factor that into gut feeling, or we could have called it additional factors. Maybe your family have a home in France. So I think these are the 5 factors. Obviously, each of you need to put a different weight on each of these factors. Okay, I'll show you my weight in my next slide. But there's a different weight on each of these factors. Some people will say, listen, I just care about the school ranking and the cost of program. I don't care about the length. I don't care about the location. I don't have any gut feelings, and I'm traveling alone. It's fine. Put 50-50 on those two. Some people say, listen, I don't care if the school is ranked number 1. I'm not going to live in Chicago. It's minus 30 degrees there in the winter. I only want a warm place. I'm only going to San Diego. So they less care about the ranking and they care about, the weather. I don't know if that's location or gut feeling. Okay, so you need to decide what you want to put in each, what's the weight for each of these. So let's continue. And again, keep asking questions on the chat. I will try and address them at the end. There's a whole Q&A session. We only have about 3 or 4 slides left. That's why I'm trying to talk quickly. So of course, there's other factors as well. I'm not ignoring school culture. Vibe, I love that. I don't want to mention schools that I don't think they have a good vibe, but I actually spoke to a candidate from, not candidate, he's a student at Kellogg a few weeks ago, and he's having the time of his life. Like he said there's a great vibe between the students, very collaborative attitude, everybody's helping each other. He wasn't feeling, when it was the recruitment season, he wasn't feeling that people were kind of competing. He felt that people really genuinely tried to help him get into, he went to work at Google, help him get into his product management position. So maybe vibe, maybe if there's a specific recruiter, I don't know, if you really want to go to Uber, that's not a huge recruiter. Maybe they only recruit from California schools. Teaching method, most top schools teach with case study method, and I'll try and show you some differences. Maybe class size, average age, fine. I don't disagree that these things are important. You need to decide what's important for you and try and factor. So here I kind of did I just did this kind of like 10 minutes before this session, and I kind of took a few schools, I won't mention them, and I kind of gave my factors, my weight factors. Location is a very important one. um, I'm married, and I actually gave my wife a 5-point bonus here. So gut was supposed to be 20, but then I decided no, I'm going to give her an extra 5%. Um, and the cost is important. Of course, the school brand. And I was for me. The length was less important. Okay, and then I tried to factor this for 4 schools, and school number 4, it was London Business School, got the highest factor. Okay, but that was just me. And of course, you might have 10 factors, and you can do some kind of weighted parameter Excel and try and find the schools that work for you. You won't be the only candidate who applies also to INSEAD and also to Harvard, also to IE Madrid, and also to Berkeley. Although there might not be a connection between these schools, and the length might be different, and the continent might be different, they might work for you. Okay, so it's very individual, which schools work for you. Okay, we're nearly at the top. I just wanted to kind of give you some comparison between kind of schools, but as you will see, a lot of things are very similar. So let's say you want to look at the top schools in the US versus some of the European schools. I think a very big difference is the length of the program. Okay, so US schools are usually 2 years, and European schools are usually 1 to 1.5 years. That's a huge difference. And if it's a 1-year program, some of the schools don't have an internship. Okay, so that is a very big difference. I'm not sure there are that many other differences. Definitely, US schools have a lot of Americans, a lot of domestic candidates, and European schools will have a lot of international candidates. Maybe that's another difference. But most of the other things, it's very experimental learning, a lot of case studies, kind of similar. If we look at like the academics themselves, very similar, both good for career switches. To be honest, I put your accelerators for US schools. Of course, they're good for career switches as well. Maybe European schools are a bit more tolerant for older candidates, but again, we're talking about a year or two older, with a kind of a tenure is starting to be an orange light, and more than 12 years of full-time experience is just too much for full-time MBA in Europe as well, also in the US. So also kind of similar. Maybe the US has a bit younger candidates. I think the average age was 27, and at the top 5 European schools, 28. Not a big deal. Extracurriculars, lots of options. It's fine. If I look at location, okay, this is a huge difference. Of course, they're located in different places, and there's just more international candidates in Europe. And sometimes, there can be a language barrier. If you want to work in Germany but you don't know German, that just might be an issue. And I think this is just my last slide, like return on investment. So a lot of people tell me, like, I just want to go to a top US school because I can make more money. It's actually usually wrong. If you do a quick Excel of return on investment, you will see that the shorter the program is, the quicker the return on investment is, right? So if you're studying 10 months at INSEAD and you start working on month number 11, you're going to make more money after, you're going to be in a better place after 2 years, even if you got a full scholarship in a US school, okay? Because you're going to make more than the amount of that scholarship in the time left. So again, usually the European schools have an advantage in return on investment. The salaries are kind of similar in the same weight. That means today, I think the European salaries are lower. They're lower substantially, and around 15% lower than the US schools. But things can change, politics, exchange rates, a new president in the US, Brexit, there's so many factors here that just changed the exchange rate value. But because it's the same companies that come to recruit both in Europe and in the US, they come to recruit for the same positions, they're kind of giving the same weighted salary. Remember, your cost of living in Madrid will be lower than the cost of living in San Francisco. Okay, so it's okay that the salary is 15% lower if you're working in the same place because your cost of living is low. And I think that's it. Okay, so that was my kind of 2 cents. Again, I think what I tried to say was that there's various factors. I like ARINGO 5, but there's various factors. You need to decide on your factors. Don't get fixated. Don't get stubborn on one specific ranking because there's many rankings. Don't be stubborn about a specific industry because all schools kind of work towards all industries, but definitely give way to location and even the gut feeling and things like that. So that was me. This is my email. If you want to send me your profile, I'm very good at profile reviews. I can give you personal advice, but please send me as much information like your resume and GMAT, school wish list, things like that. So that was me. I'm now going to answer some questions, okay, on the chat. So please ask me. I'm kind of scrolling up, and I can see I missed some questions before. So ask me anything. I'm going to try and go kind of according to order. So Ayush, very specific question about NCAD interview. So first of all, congratulations. Second of all, we offer interview prep. If you want to interested, contact me. But regarding conversion, it's very hard for me to tell. Basically, the school generally globally has something like 50% conversion rate in interviews. At ARINGO, we had over 80% acceptance rate to NCAD, including the interview. So obviously our rates were much higher. Come prepared. I mean, there's lots of information out there. I think I have a video on interviewing for NCAD. Just come prepared. I hope you do well. Okay. Okay, you've done the interviews. Okay. All I can do is fingers crossed, and I hope you manage to make it. Okay. So Pooja asked, is it difficult to get admitted with 10 years of work experience? So Pooja, again, I can't actually write on the comments, but we have another video, MBA over 30. If you put ARINGO, the name of our company, MBA over 30 in YouTube, it's a great video with lots of options. Okay, so there are specific programs for candidates with more than 10 years of experience. I'll just mention them. MIT Sloan Fellows, Stanford MSX, Foster Gember, USC IBER, London Business School, Sloan Program, 5 programs that just look for senior candidates. On the other hand, if you have exactly 10 years of experience, you might be borderline. So you might be able to still get into the regular MBA programs or the more senior ones. This is up to you. Again, talk to me kind of privately. Send me your CV and GMAT and school wish list, etc. Sorry, I mean, Shashank, I mean, same answer. Okay, over 30s. Again, I don't even look at age. I look at years of experience. If you have more than 8, 9, 10 years of experience, that's kind of an orange flag. More than 10, more than 12 years, you're just not going to get into a regular full-time MBA program. Talk to me privately about that, okay? So that's very specific. Okay, this is more of a comment, not a question, but I still want to address it. And thanks. Who wrote this? Sandarb. So thanks for this question or this comment. You actually said that placement reports are more authentic than rankings. I don't know. I was going to say I beg to differ. Like I think maybe exactly the opposite. So a placement report is done by the school, and I think they can manipulate more than a ranking that goes to X alumni by a kind of third party, let's say, ranking company. But I agree, the schools are fiddling with the rankings all the time. I couldn't agree more. No way all the rankings are 100% reliable. Think, if you were the dean of a school, this is the only important thing to you, the ranking of the school, right? If you go up, you get a bonus. If you go down, you get fired or shot. Let's not exaggerate. But the ranking is the most important thing for someone that, for like the dean of a business school, because that's the prestige of the business school. So of course they want to go up and they will do anything they can. And some of the things is, you're right, try and manipulate whoever they can. There have been some scandals in this area. Again, I don't know in how much detail to go, but there have been some scandals. And there was a dean that was fired a few years ago because he gave a wrong number for the percent of GMATs that were used in their online MBA. Okay, it's not one of the top schools. And the Financial Times has actually excluded some business schools lately due to they're just not sure if the information they're getting is accurate. So I definitely agree for that. Okay, let's move on. Another question here. I work for the National Oil Company. Okay, that's good. I want to make a switch to BP or Shell. That's good as well. Alternative energy, always good. 30 years, 31 years old, 7 years of work experience. Okay, I'm sure there's a question here, but I'm not sure what it is. Get a high GMAT. Apply to good schools. Which good schools? Well, you can look at recruiters, and because BP is, a British company, it's fair to assume, and you can look at recruitment reports and placement reports. It's fair to assume that they recruit more from British MBAs, so that's a good example. But there's other oil companies, and there's other alternative energy companies recruiting from all top MBA programs. So one thing is to only look at specific location programs. It's a good idea. Or if this is the industry you're interested in, you can look at maybe other interesting locations. For example, McCombs in Austin, due to the fact that it's in Texas, where there's a lot of oil and gas, there's a lot of big energy companies there, and they naturally go and recruit from the school. That's just another example, but this is quite a big sector, not like consulting or tech, but energy is quite a big sector, and there's a lot of companies recruiting from nearly all top MBA programs. So as long as you have a good profile, which seems like you do, and a good application, happy to help you with that. I think you have a good chance. Okay. So Mark, you said about location. I definitely agree. When I choose a school, I really think that the weight should be on the location. Definitely, if you're traveling with a partner, I would even put 40-50% on the location, and then on the other things like brand placement, things like that. Pooja, it's just making me think that you said like course curricular is important, but when you compare top MBA programs, you might find out that the curriculum is very, very similar. So I studied at London Business School. It's not an American program. Maybe London. It's not in the US. And the program was just identical to the US curriculum. Okay, the first week was a lot of soft things. Then the first year is core courses like microeconomics and statistics and entrepreneurship and marketing and finance too. And the second year it consists of electives, very, very similar to what you would have done at Duke, Cornell, Harvard, or UCLA. So the curriculum is important, but again, you might find out that the curriculum is very, very similar. Okay, so Hazma, Hazama said something nice that he knows someone, and he refused to go to a certain school because he felt the vibe was less good. Okay, fine. Again, this is something which is so subjective. Okay, also the word vibe, and also what's important for you. So I work with candidates who tell me, only New York. I have to be in a big city, only New York. Another candidate will say, just not New York. It's so expensive. It's so loud. I just want like a smaller place. And I think the vibe in a smaller place will be better. And I just can't answer that. Go and do a campus visit and try and decide for yourself. But it's just very, very personal. Okay. Mark actually asked a question, which funnily enough is exactly what I was saying. So how important is it to visit the campus? So Mark, again, there's two things that this campus visit can add. One is, I'm a bit cynical, like it can add 2 points to your application because you can mention in the application, after visiting Columbia and sitting in the class of Professor Smith, Management Innovation, I learned so much, and I actually sat by a student named David who gave me his number, whatever. So Columbia will see this and they'll say, wow, this Mark guy, he's serious about this. Okay, like he really wants Columbia. Let's give him an extra 2 points, 2 out of 100, Mark. But this is nice. It shows that you've done more than your homework, right? You've actually come to Columbia. Can you do this remotely? Probably yes. after seeing your webinar and speaking to, I can't remember the student name, David, which I contacted on LinkedIn. He told me about the Management Innovation class by Professor Smith. Okay, you didn't visit the campus, but here's another point and a half. So you can visit the campus, but I'm not sure I would travel, especially if you know, if I don't know, if you don't feel like. But the other factor is important. Okay, so it's important if you just don't know what the campus is like, you don't know what living in New York is like, you've never been to New York, you've never been to Virginia. Darden is in a little place. It's a great school, one of the best in the world, but it's not in a busy city. Is that okay? Is that bad? Is that good? So if you want to visit to kind of help you make your mind up, I see value in that. If you want to visit just to say that you visited, like I think you mentioned, because can you just ghost apply, kind of apply without being there? It adds value, but you could probably make up for that value in MBA fairs or things like that. Gut feeling has suddenly become very important with visa for partner. You know what? I didn't put the visas, but it all comes. I probably should have had 6 factors. Okay, and the 6 should have been the partner, because I personally really put a lot of weight on partners, because if you have an amazing time in your MBA, 12 hours a day, 7 to 7, 9 to 9 at London Business School, you drink a lot of beers at the end of every day, and you just have a great time in the clubs, etc. And then you go home and your partner is waiting with a microwave dinner for 2 with the lights out, and he or she are very sad. That's not going to be good on you. That's going to add also stress on your whole life and experience. So your partner needs to be very happy. You're right. Okay, so age, yes, we kind of discussed that, Pooja. Age doesn't matter, but your number of years of experience matters. So that's important. Thank you, GMAT Club, for mentioning. Yes, you can definitely have a free consultation with us. Check out our website. Again, send us as much information as possible. You have my email, like resume, GMAT, school wish list, question list, so we can help you as much as possible. Okay, so here's a very specific question by Azama. I'm looking at applying to early decision to Colombia. That's a smart decision. If I don't get accepted round 1 or 2, but do get accepted to another top program, is it worth applying to a dream school or settling? What a question. Such a good question, which I have no idea what the answer is. I love this session because usually I do other sessions which I have very clear answers. But here, most of my answers will be trust your gut feeling. So I think what you're asking is, if I don't get into my dream school, is it worth waiting a year and applying again? Or should I settle and go for my backup school? What's the answer? I'm trying to do my strange face. I don't know. Okay, you need to decide what do you prefer. Okay. Strangely enough, I think I have every year one candidate, that gets into an MBA program and decides not to go there. And he kind of says, yes, if you like the video, please like it. It helps GMAT Club publish it. So thanks. Every year I have a candidate that kind of gets into school and then doesn't go. And I'm like, so why did you apply to X school for the first place? And he says, yeah, it was my backup. So I'm saying, okay, but you got into your backup. Why aren't you going? He says, because I want to try my #1 school again next year. So don't do that. It's silly. If you only want Harvard, only apply to Harvard. There's no point in applying to a second school if you're not going to go there. Okay, so you need to make that decision. Again, use whichever method you want, the Excel I showed before, or your gut feeling, or flip a coin. But don't apply to schools that, if you get into them and you don't get into any other schools, you don't want to go to them eventually. Okay. Okay, Mark, send me your resume and question list. Okay, you have very good questions, and you should go at 700 GMAT. That's good. I'll try and help you as much as I can. I'll just say that Mark asked about if he knows someone or has a relative that went to school. Can that help? So Definitely. So apart from the full application that we said before, like the resume and the essays and the letters of recommendation, someone that you know can also send a support letter. Support letter can only come from a student or an alumni from that specific school and can just help the school kind of say, okay, there's someone that kind of knows him. This can help. Again, it's definitely not a huge, it won't turn a bad candidate into an acceptance, but it can add another 1 or 2 points. So yeah, if you know students from the schools, try and use them. Yeah. But again, a bit specific, so I need to go into more detail about that. So contact me later. Um, how much do you need? Oh, God, what a lovely question. Ashwin, how much do you need to have to score in the GMAT to have all these schools open for selection? Okay, I don't know what that exactly means, but the top schools, the top US schools, like the M7, the average GMAT is 730. If your profile is average, then you probably need to aim for around 730. If your profile is less than average, I'll give an example, then you probably need to aim for a higher GMAT, okay? If your profile is very, by the way, it's not average, sorry, is special, okay? That's probably a better word. So if your profile is very special, I'm going to give a very special, you opened the startup when you were 21, you sold it to Microsoft for $50 million at 23, you were elected by your president to, I don't know, some kind of award, and when you went to volunteer in Guatemala, you built an orphanage from scratch. Okay, sorry, you're obviously a female and a marathon runner. Okay, I can't think of anything better than that. Yes, GPA amazing. Um, so that's an amazing candidate, and then this candidate could probably get away with a GMAT score which would be 30 or 40 or even 50 points lower than average. But if you come from an overrepresented background, it doesn't mean you're not special, but it just means there's a lot of other people like you. Okay, if you're a white male finance guy from New York, okay, that's not a bad thing, but there's a lot of people like that. Okay, and you can think, of other overrepresented backgrounds. Okay, and if the school, you just need to think about the eyes of the school. If the school gets 1,000, let's stereotype another Indian male engineers. Okay, it's another overrepresented background, and they get 1,000 applicants of this background. They can do something very simple. They won't say they do it, but they can do a cut in the GMAT, and they can say, okay, whoever gets less than 720, 730, why should we look at them? We have 500 candidates with a higher than the average GMAT. So again, it really depends on who you are, what your background is, how special you are to the school, and then again, can you get away with a GMAT which is a bit lower than average, or does your GMAT need to be a bit higher? Is your professional experience more interesting than the average candidate? Have you progressed at work faster? Did you get a fast track promotion? Things like that can differentiate you, and then you can get away with a lower GMAT than other candidates. We have another video about getting accepted with low GMATs. Again, that's one of our specializations, so check that out. Okay, Pooja, wow, good questions. What's the difference between private and public universities? So first of all, most top MBA programs in the world, in the US and in Europe, are in private universities, okay? So there isn't a big difference because you won't see many public universities. Nevertheless, there are a few public universities. University of Washington in Seattle, Foster MBA, very good MBA program in a public university. What's the difference? No difference. I think you can ignore the word private or public. Look at the other factors. If the MBA is cheaper, it's not much cheaper at Foster. If the MBA is cheaper, that's a factor of cost. But the fact that the university is private or public, I see no relevance in the MBA world. Okay, maybe in other degrees, but not in the MBA world. Okay, Ashwin, you had good questions before, so I'm counting on this one. Let's read it. Is it advisable to do bachelor's, master's, and then MBA, or bachelor's and then directly MBA? Such a good question. Again, you're asking questions I've never got before, so I like them. Thumbs up. You're the winner of my thumbs up for now. There is no advice. There's no general advice for MBAs. Okay, I get this question quite often from candidates, like, should I do my master's now? A lot of people ring me and say, I'll take this a different direction, and I think you'll understand. And they say, I have two job opportunities. One, a marketing manager, that's quite senior, right? In a startup that's going to close in 6 months, but the marketing manager. And the second, an intern, so a very junior job, but at Procter and Gamble, okay, a tier 1 international brand that we all know. I hope you wash your hair with what's Procter and Gamble? Pantene, I think. Head and Shoulders. Okay, so tier 1 brand, everybody knows this brand, but you're going to be an intern or marketing manager in a startup. And unfortunately, my answer is both are great. It really depends, about the rest of your profile. And again, both are great. There isn't one profile, and schools look for a diverse class. They don't just look for one kind of profile. So there's just no right answer. And it's exactly the same with your question. Should you do your master's? If you do your master's, that will make you more unique. I'm assuming 10% of candidates have masters. Okay, so that already puts you in the bucket of 10%. On the other hand, if you don't do your master's, you might have time to improve your work experience. You might have time to improve your extracurriculars. You might get a faster promotion. You might get in anyway without the master's. So again, should you do a full-time master's, a part-time master's? I don't really know. It all depends on your total profile. But schools look at diverse people, so diverse candidates. So some will have a master's and some won't. Again, there's no kind of straight answer. Finally, a very simple question from Priyal. Thank you. Oh, you're my new thumbs up. Forget Ashwin. He's asking very difficult questions. So Priyal, the GMAT is important for acceptance and is very important for scholarships. So again, this is a rule of thumb. It's not true, but a rule of thumb. Most MBA programs will put around 30% or 30 points out of 100, yes, 30% out of your acceptance percentage on the GMAT. So that's a very big factor, yes, 30%. But then when we look at scholarships, it can be a very, very big percentage. Again, I'm not saying if you have a unique background, if you come from a country, Fiji or the Vatican. I haven't had any candidates from the Vatican yet. But I had from Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, I had a candidate. Okay, so I've had candidates from very unique countries. And the MBA programs would love to add another country to their list. So they would probably be higher up in the scholarship pool. But definitely for you to change your destiny, because you already have your profile. But the biggest factor that you can change right now, unless you're 20 years old and haven't worked yet anywhere, is to just get a high GMAT, both for acceptance and especially maybe for scholarships. Okay, we have a few more questions, so I'm going to try and do them very quickly. Okay, Osama, great, thanks. You are not good. Colombia's been a childhood dream. I love that. Gut feeling, Colombia, 50%. Okay, that's great. Okay. What about top Canadian schools? Okay. Oh, wow, lots of questions. Canadian based on GMAT, GPA, work experience. So look on our ARINGO.com. We have a top 6, I think, Canadian programs with all the statistics. Yes, if you get a higher than average GMAT, like 700 plus for the Canadian programs, and you have a very good profile, you have a chance to get a scholarship. There's very few full scholarships, just want to be honest. We had last year, I think it was 16 or 18 candidates that got full ride scholarships. Many other candidates got 80%, 70, 60, 50. And you just need to, you have to have a good application, so hard for me to answer all that. How difficult would it be to get admissions if you come from an overrepresented country? So I think I kind of answered that, but I'll try again. It's difficult. It's more difficult to come from an overrepresented country than if you come from what was it? The Vatican? No, Fiji. Let's stick with Fiji. Fiji, or an African small country. So it's definitely more difficult. But as long as you can prove that you're special, more special than your peers, you had fast track promotions, your GPA was good, you have volunteering, you have a very clear story, you write a very good application, you have a good chance. You mentioned India specifically. We work with 100 candidates from India every year. So um, check out our stats; they're very good. So the fact that you come from India doesn't mean that you don't have a chance because it's maybe overrepresented. Not at all. It just means you have to write a very good application. Okay, I'm sorry I can't highlight the questions. So GMAT Club are going to try and help me here. Again, same question about information for scholarships, GMAT, etc. I'm not even sure what you're asking, but send me, Angela, um, send me your profile and maybe I can help there. Okay, Rafin, sorry, good question. So maybe I didn't answer that before. So, I really didn't mention the top Canadian universities. And the reason is they're not ranked in the top MBA programs in the world. Okay, so in any rankings, and I think I showed 6, maybe 5, um, the top Canadian schools are not ranked and are not considered in the top MBA programs. This doesn't mean you can't go and study in Canada. Schulich, Rotman, McGill, Sauder, very good programs. Um, and they cost half than the US programs, and there's very good career opportunities after that. And again, I think if you chose one of those schools, that just goes to show that ranking wasn't your number one factor, but maybe location, maybe visas for your family, maybe you want to immigrate to Canada. So definitely, again, check out our site for the top Canadian schools. There's lots of information there. Superb questions. I think I have 2 more. But one, Pooja, we kind of answered. Um, you're an Indian female. Is that overrepresented? So definitely, the schools get a lot of candidates from India. I would say roughly 90% are male. That doesn't mean there aren't a lot of females from India. I don't know if you're overrepresented or not. I just need to see your profile. If it's a non-technical background, you might not be from an overrepresented profile. Still, I don't really know what you can do with this information. Let's say I say yes, or let's say I say no. It doesn't really matter. You need to try and maximize your chances by having a great GMAT and writing a great application, applying to schools that are within reach. Okay, so if you have a 600 GMAT, it's just probably not going to be enough for Stanford. Probably, again, I don't know your profile, but probably. Again, send me your resume and GMAT, and I'll try and give you kind of a personal review. Okay, and last question. Does the large Indian candidates have any effect on applicants of neighboring countries of India? Okay, that's a good question. So, funnily enough, neighboring countries of India, for example, Pakistan, or we can go south to Sri Lanka, there's also a lot of candidates from these countries. Okay, so they're not small exotic countries that there aren't many candidates. I see 0 effect from being by an overrepresented country. So the answer is no. Again, I don't know what you want to put kind of how much weight you want to put on this overrepresented or not. You need to make the best effort you can. All I'm saying is also apply to kind of schools within your reach. Again, talk to me. We have a calculator, chances calculator on our site. Check out aringo.com. But again, if you have a 500 GMAT and a 1-year experience in a not very good firm, you're probably not going to get into London Business School. Okay, like overrepresented, underrepresented, who cares? You're just not going to make the cut. So when you're overrepresented, all it means is it's going to be even harder than other candidates. Instead of applying to 4 schools, maybe apply to 5. But you can't do much with this information apart from just doing your best, right? Okay, Mark slipped in another question. What's the interview process like? This is definitely the wrong presentation for that. But Mark, you asked, I'll answer. Okay, so I don't know if you received already an interview. I think you only did your GMAT yesterday, if I remember correctly. Um, the interview is very different from school to school. So, for example, Harvard Business School asks you to come in person. You need to travel to various locations in the world, London, Paris, obviously Boston, Asia, somewhere, I can't remember where, and interview with admission committee members. Chicago Booth will interview with alumni. Um, UCLA interview with second-year students over Zoom. So first of all, each school interviews in a different way. So I can't really answer this. You know, it's a very specific question per school. The questions tend to be kind of similar. There's a lot of, you know, kind of walk me through your CV. What are your career goals? Why MBA? Why now? But again, for specific questions, just shoot me an email. I'll send you as much information as you want. Okay, guys. So again, thank you very much for this presentation. Thank you for the questions. I think this is the first time I'm doing a presentation which the answers are not clear. And again, it's very hard to decide between Rotman in Toronto and IE Madrid and UCLA. So definitely not an easy presentation for me and not easy for me to answer your questions. I hope I gave you a bit of insight. Check us out on aringo.com. If you like this video, like it. And see you in the future. Good luck to everyone. Bye for now.